All right. So here's the issue we're going to pick up on the Web ID maintainer onboarding, which this is the last session. Last session was the last session for non-APAC. This is the last session, period. So that's exciting and it's really great. And I'm so excited for the project to have more eyes on it. And it's gonna really help out the project. It's also be great to continue regularly collaborating with you all on a casual demand because there's not many contributors to the project at the current moment. But right now we're gonna tackle a new issue. So the issue is regarding these messages that pop up when we from the VS Code extension need to submit a message like you committed successfully or some sort of error is happening, whatever. Sometimes at the bottom here, and you see I had to expand it, but sometimes it shows it without the expansion. It'll say the source of the message. And here it's saying that it's coming from the GitLab Web ID extension. Well, this is the core extension that makes everything run. We don't want to show this for that extension, our built-in extension. For extensions that the user might install when we have the extension marketplace, we definitely want to show it. But for ours, it's just weird and annoying. So not surprisingly, it was picked out by a UXer that can tend to be sensitive when, and not look the other way when things are, weird and annoying and distracting to the user. Which is good because we can polish it up. But here's the weird catch. This is built-in VS Code behavior. So we're going to need to look at the VS Code fork project to see if there's any conditions of when this thing actually gets rendered and if we can touch it and what all that means and looks like. So let's dive into it and see what we can do. So we're going to actually open up the VS Code fork project. I'm going to go over here. I'll do this in the terminal above. And I'm going to open up GitLab Web ID, VS Code fork. Okay, let me make sure I'm up to date. All right. It says we're up to date. I'm going to fetch from origin. Nothing is fetched. We are up to date. All right, so I'm looking for source : I think that's what I'm going to look for across the project. All right. It does not have any. I always do regex searches when I'm looking for across the when I'm doing a project-wide search so that I can say it doesn't have a word character before it, and I'm just looking for a source. That kind of thing is super helpful. Notifications viewer. Look at this thing. All right. If notification.expanded and notification.source. All right. We're getting somewhere. So what is this notification.source? What is this notification view item? All right. Let's see here. If I right click, maybe I can find references to this thing. All right. Here's a bunch of notifications. Notification service. These are all referencing it. I don't see anything that's actually setting it. Okay. So maybe I'm going to find references to this private method and we'll follow it from there. If I find references.
Could it have been in the getter in notifications, TS or JS? There was a get source.
Yeah, let me go back to there. Sorry. in this one. Oh, yeah. Ah, yeah. Good catch. I bet this seems pretty good. Okay. Yeah. All right, let's see if we can open this up. Yeah, I think this is it. Nice catch. So this is probably coming from, oh yeah, look at these helpful things. This is coming from a class that implements the iNotification view item, which is the thing that's coming from here. So sweet. We're getting somewhere. So somehow there's this private field source that must be getting set. Okay, which has a label and an ID when we build this thing. But it's a private constructor, so it must have like a public static method, like this one, create. Okay. I think maybe we can look there. Oh, when do we reference? What does source actually get set to? Oh, is this like after the message? All right. Let me rather than trying to read this, let me try to follow. Okay, that's the only reference here. Oh yeah, notification.source. All right, what is this notification thing? This is an I notification. All right, pause and back up. With TypeScript stuff, are you all familiar with the I prefix?
Is it
This
for
is
an
just
interface?
yes, but it's not obviously doesn't. This is just like a convention that's kind of like comes from C#, but TypeScript actually says don't do this. I used to be a C# developer, so I like doing this. Pun intended. No, it wasn't intended, but I'm gonna take credit for it. The but the situation we're currently in the web ID is that a number of our interfaces have I prefix, a number of them do not. The contributors to the web ID project have agreed don't use I as a prefix. TypeScript says don't do it. We're not writing C#. But unfortunately, there's a bit of that legacy in the web ID project. But as you can see here in VS Code land, they're very much I prefix heavy. Okay, so let's see what references this thing. I think that's the next thing to do. References of create. So there's one here. Okay, that's like a private method where we're creating a view item from somehow within this notifications model. Okay, that's the only time this thing gets created. I think. So that's interesting. Let's see what calls create view item. Oh no, I accidentally clicked the button on my mouse and it went back. I'm gonna have to do this again. I don't know what button I clicked on the side of my mouse. I never use the side buttons on my mouse. Okay, we have this thing called add notification. All right, let's see. Go to references. All right, notification service. All right, look at all these things. What's this notification service? Okay, here we go. We have this model where we add a notification. All right, I am going to go to the definition of this thing. And source is not required. Cool. That's great to hear because then we can just null it out and be happy. All right, let's go back to what were the references of add notification. All right. That's one. It's not setting a source. This seems to be the only one that's might be setting a source here. It comes from this thing called notify. Let's keep going. Oh man, yeah, this is the one. Oh man. All right. Look at all those references. So I have a feeling we probably want to check out something like extension actions.
What's the name of the thing that we're calling from the web IDE extension?
Good question. So that will be yeah, that's a really good question. Let's look for no changes found, not able to commit. So this is coming from the VS Code extension API. So this is something that's injected into the extension runtime. So it must be this. It's this function show information message. So great. Let's check that out. Let's keep this one open. Check out show information message. So we're gonna get a bunch of stuff from their own built-in extensions. Let's exclude those. And then here is this must be the object that kind of gets passed along to here. So it looks like there's this show message thing from the X-Toast message service. All right. These are some weird TypeScript function overloads that this is the body for all of those different types of parameters that they take. We don't really use function overloads in the Web IDE project. All right. Does the notify thing come up? No, we kind of just have this. Is the source thing come up here? Do we have a source at all? Oh, look, here it is. Here it is. Look at this thing. Ah! All right. What does options get used at? Options gets passed through this show message thing. Okay. Let me keep that one open, but let's hop into here. Oh, but that's a all right, we'll need to find go to implementations of this. Okay, yes. Well, you show a modal message or show a regular message. Boom. Ah, look at this. Look at this. If options source, there we go. I bet this is going to call notify. Come on. Yes, 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 yes. All right, we found it. Yes. All right. Great. Okay. So, let's go back to here. And so when we call show message, we're always having this source set. And I think, yeah, I don't think there's any way VS Code doesn't want extensions to break out of this because it wants the user to be able to see what extensions are telling you this thing. But we want to break out of it.
Would we want to hard code that here based on the extension rather than making it configurable? Because I don't think you'd want to let other extensions disable.
I think that's the way to do it. Let's hop into the I extension description real fast. What is this? The I extension description equals a read-only version of the relaxed extension description. I love relaxed as an adjective for for your type. I feel like we have like our alert messages. We need to have like relaxed alert messages that are like, it's not that big of a deal. So here's my thought. What if we, the one option is we hard code the identifier of the GitLab Web IDE extension here. And we say, if you're this ID, we don't have a source. The other option that I find interesting is what if we actually don't do this for built-in extensions?
What would that affect other extensions that we might want to show the source of? Like, what are the other built-in extensions?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that question is. I know that if you install something from the marketplace, it's not built in. You know what? But while we're here, though, let's just look at it from here. So from the web IDE, even though we don't have the extension marketplace, we can still search for extensions like that are enabled. Maybe not enabled, but I can still search for like the GitLab web IDEs. Anyways, we're going to have to search for built-in extensions. These are all, I think all of these are the built-in extensions. So these all come from, in the web IDE world, they come from one of two places. They come from the VSCode fork has a whole bunch of extensions it provides built in, which is like Markdown support and various language support that just come baked out of the box of VSCode. But it also includes our GitLab web IDE extension, which is our main engine that starts everything, and the GitLab workflow extension. So that's why the IDE part won't totally work, because I think we want to probably do the same thing for the GitLab workflow extension. Like maybe we'd not show the source for those. In this message, it doesn't look like it's that bad because the user has to expand it to see. In other messages, it always shows source, and it's kind of weird. For some reason, I felt like I needed to defend the reason we're doing this in the first place. But you bring up a good point, is if we just check built-in, that would be true for all of these. You know, maybe we want to show it if it's, we're getting some sort of, some sort of HTML language message. And in that regard, maybe we want to show it if it's coming from us still. I don't know. What do you all think?
Source has a label, right? Could we just filter? Well, what does the source for our GitLab extensions look like? Like, is it possible that we just filter those out? Like, I assume our extensions all have GitLab in the label somewhere or
Yeah.
something.
I see. Yeah. You're talking about like, so this actually comes from like, so it's showing the label of the ID identifier, but we could actually, extensions are supposed to have a unique identifier too. So like we can actually identify it through this value. We can look for all GitLab dots and not show source. It's a little hacky. But it's for the user and they're worth it. I don't know. What do you think, Simon? Do you think that since this requires touching the fork, like maybe we shouldn't do it?
No, it seems like as long as we don't allow other extensions to do it.
That makes sense.
But it also doesn't seem super critical versus like knowing that it's, because there still are, like, for us debugging things, it'd be useful to know this is a message from the IDE extension versus from internal.
Let me show the messiest version of this. If I commit to a new branch, this is the messiest version of it. You see this thing?
Oh, so that's the one that the issue description was talking about, like
Yeah.
with the 3
Yeah,
buttons.
yeah.
Yeah, that looks atrocious. We should get rid of that.
Wow, I didn't know you felt that strongly about it, Simon.
It's no, that's awful. The collapsed one I didn't mind just knowing, but that just looks broken.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
that's the point.
I agree.
Out of curiosity, how many buttons shows up in that little notification
I think
thing?
3 is the max buttons. I'm sure 3 is the max. If there's more than 3, that would be surprising. Let's do another commit. Yeah, I'm pretty sure 3 buttons is the max. I wish I could say something like, you know, we did experimentation on our user base and landed on these are the 3 buttons that, you know, provided the most engagement from our audience, but I can't say that we had that much data-driven insight. Okay, so yes, one option is definitely doable of something like I'm going to make it a ternary for right now, but it doesn't have to stay that way. But something like extension dot identifier dot. Oh, geez. Do not use directly. This is public to avoid mangling. I'm not even going to worry about whatever VS Code is doing to their stuff. I'm going to try not to think about it too much. I think I'll do something like match, and like if it matches GitLab dot, like then we're a GitLab extension. Be empty. So something like that. Maybe the one-liner isn't a pretty way to do it. I kind of like keeping this a const though. So I'm inclined to like almost make a, but then again, but okay, I say that, but at the same time, I don't want to touch too much of this file. So the goal is when we're in VS Code fork land, we don't want to touch as much as we don't want to touch a lot. So maybe the ternary is okay. What do you think?
It's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Okay, ternary is fine. We have as a in this project, we have how we want to comment the changes we make, so we give context to things, because like we need to anticipate conflicts in this file when we update things, when we update the base version of it. So we actually do something like we say, all right, we're starting something where we've made a change. All right. And I think we also
How does that? Oh, I was gonna ask, how does that work if you touch a lot of files or you
we do not touch a lot of files in the VS Code fork.
Well, that is the goal, yes.
Yeah, something wrong is happening if we do that. So like we have to be really mindful of, thankfully VS Code fork project is like built to be, it's so large and it's built to be extensible because it uses like dependency injection and stuff. So if we had new behavior, like really need to change something, it's possible for us to change a lot by just adding new files.
Right.
But yeah, there's obviously a huge cost to, you know, fixing the way that button looks, which is kind of atrocious. The huge cost is, all right, we're touching fork project, and that every line we're waiting highly here. I'm not sure. This seems to surrounded, and please include a reason for the change with links for more context. Oh, see, I'm not even following the rules. All right. We that looks atrocious. Simon nods. We don't want to show the source from messages coming from GitLab web IDE itself. Okay, cool. I think this is a pretty good start, and now we want to test out this change. Let me create a branch. We are what are we doing? Oh yeah. Don't show source on GitLab extensions. All right. Fix. Don't show source on GitLab extensions. And I'll add a reference to this thing. I should probably add a reference to this thing. Okay. Cool. All right, let's commit it. Hopefully it commits. Man, we're just getting things done. So the real question is, how do we test this? We have a custom version of this VS Code fork that we want to test in the web IDE. Thanks. Come on.
Oh, it's MG.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. Thank you.
Okay.
It found it. All right. All right. All right. I'll add a label so it doesn't start thinking I'm. What is this? This is what is the thing's called? Is this a bug? That's some sort of bug, right? Yeah, I guess it's something like that, right? But I know if I say it's a UX bug, that like triggers a bunch of things. But it kind of is. And no, it's not a bug. This is a feature enhancement. It's not a bug. There's no bug here. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna say this is a feature enhancement. All right, so multiple ways that we can test out this VS Code fork. We want to test it in the web IDE to make sure we actually fix the thing. So one of the ways I like to do it is let CI build the thing. And then I update the local reference of, oops. Then I'll update our VS Code build package that has the reference of the VS Code version. I'll update this to the pipeline artifact of that merge request. And then when I build this thing locally, I can test out how does this version of the web IDE work with that version of the VS Code fork, and is the issue resolved? So that's how I like to do it. I could start building this locally, but it kind of takes a little bit of time because VS Code is super big. So I kind of don't think I'm going to do it. I think I'm going to wait for the pipeline to do it. Yeah. What do you think?
Seems fine.
Okay.
Do you know how long it takes? Is it pretty quick? Or it's like a GitLab pipeline?
It's like 10-ish minutes. The VS Code fork takes a lot longer than web IDE. because it's a very large TypeScript project. It's like seems to do a lot.
Understand.
That's why every change counts. Every small change.
Yeah, really try not to touch this thing. Okay. Yeah, I think though that's about it. Is there any questions about like the relationship between the VS Code fork project and the Web IDE project, or does that seem pretty straightforward? Okay.
Yeah, I think this was a good illustration of it, actually.
Yeah, it'd be nice if this finished. I'm hoping it does. It's nighttime over here, so hopefully the pipelines have not as much demand on them, and so maybe it'll finish. One thing though is for all of these projects we don't have it automated yet, like the releases and updates of them. So when this thing merges into the master and main branch, it looks like it's main branch. When this thing merges into the main branch, that's not going to automatically create an MR in the GitLab Web IDE to update the version and stuff like that. So it's like you'll see MRs from myself or David or other people on the IDE team creating just like, hey, we just got to update our VS Code fork version, and you'll see a reference to maybe the issue that this version includes. And if you don't see that, you can always ask, like, okay, what is this version including, so I maybe know what I need to test or something like that. But those MRs happen. Those MRs happen a bit. Yeah. Cool. I'm so glad that we actually can resolve this. I'm feeling optimistic about our change. I wish we could test it. There's another way. Oh, there's two more thoughts, and then we can possibly end early if, unless we have something else to do. But two more thoughts I want to share with you all. One is in both projects, the VS Code fork project and the GitLab Web IDE project, we use conventional commits. So this is kind of what we're using as our temporary change log until we have an actual change log to compare between tags, and we will obviously use it to build the change log. But as a maintainer, this is important to keep in mind, because if you ever run into an MR that needs to be squashed because it's using like fix-up commits or something, you'll need to keep an eye on the squash commit message and make sure that that commit message is based on one of the commit messages in here and isn't just based on the MR title or like pulling from something else. So we want to try to keep an eye on the conventional commits when we're doing the merge. And then the second thing I was going to mention, in the Web IDE project, we actually have instructions for like in the development environment setup. If you want to integrate your local VS Code repo, so like I have the two projects, living side by side. If I want my local GitLab Web IDE to be pointed to the build of that local project on disk, so it's like maybe I can improve my feedback loop of making changes. We have this yarn script of like local setup and local teardown of, you can have it, rather than pulling from this location, it'll pull from your local file system, which can be handy, but these builds do take a while when you have to build from. It takes a long time the first time, and then the iterative ones are shorter, but yeah. So there's a lot of instructions here in the documentation if you run anything. But if you also just run into anything, please just ask any kind of question on the GitLab Web IDE channel. And so definitely asking the question rather than not asking the question is the preferred action. I think we're still loading here. I don't think we're even close. Oh no, starting anonymous? No, we're not even close. That's about it. But yeah, I'm glad we got to touch that and find it in the code base. That was really helpful. And so I hope that this provided some helpful context to the GitLab Web ID project. But I will upload. I have uploaded, but I'll keep you guys. I'll ping you all on the recording of the work we did in the other time zone, and so if you guys can watch that at any time that you want to just see what we worked on. But that's it.
This is the end.
This is the end. Thanks for hanging out, and thanks for committing your time to doing these sessions and committing your time to be a maintainer. I think there's not a lot of demand, so I hope you all don't feel like you're adding a huge workload on, but I'm really excited to be collaborating more with you all, and it's going to be helpful to not be as bottlenecked on the short number of heads that we have. So thanks so much, Simon and Mireille. I'll let you all go and have a good rest of the day. But before I sign off for everything, I'm gonna make you all maintainers, so you'll start seeing me ping you on MRs, and hopefully in the near future. Which reminds me is you may also want to update your team YAML reference somewhere in the www project. All right, that's it. Appreciate it. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Can I grab you for 1
Thanks.
minute, Paul?
Yeah.
Please. Off recording.
Off recording.
Okay.